Mugabe government, with a bid to, balance, how do they put it, balance colonial, the colonial land imbalances, to address the colonial land imbalances. And yet, what's his face, Emerson today is ready, and they said within how many months, 12 months, they're ready to run around to compensate these white farmers with this about $3.5 billion worth of land. Do you think that this president, or the present president, Emerson, what's his name, Mnangagwa, is he going to actually bring, with such moves, is he going to actually bring economic freedom or economic empowerment to the Zimbabwean nation, or and the southern nation, southern hemisphere as a whole?
Your question is the whole conversation. I didn't get you anyway. Damien, did you understand? Did you hear what she said? Your mic.
Yeah. This is what she was trying to say. She said since Robert Mugabe took the lands from these white farmers, she's talking about Zimbabwe, took the land from these white farmers, and is the present president, I don't know the name of the president, but she knows the name, but is the present president accepted to pay something billion of dollars to these farmers in compensation of the colonial land seizing thing from those guys. So she was asking if it is normal, if it is normal happening for that to happen, like in Africa or something. I think that's the question.
It's like you're finding out if it's a good move, right? Is that what are you trying to find out if it's a good move in compensating the white farmers?
Trying to find out if it's...
Okay.
If that is going to bring economic growth to Zimbabwe.
Okay. I want to say, yeah, I've heard you. I want to begin by saying that the whole idea in the first place of compensating is really controversial, though in one way or the other it finds itself in the Constitution, especially the 2013 Constitution, that was a constitution, a mixed constitution that was actually drawn by the ruling party and the opposition party in 2013. But before that idea came, it is the idea of actually compensating is coming from the bilateral agreement that used to exist under the BIPA that was supposed to compensate farm owners, and not only the whites, but also indigenous farm owners, where indigenous farm owners were supposed to be compensated for their lands as well as for the improvement of their lands. And for the whites, which they are close to about 3,500 of them are supposed to be compensated for the improvement of the land, and also for some of them, the properties that they owned, which were actually collected. At times we used to say that Mugabe actually took the farms and redistributed them, but that is not the truth behind it. Mugabe never actually took the farms and redistributed. He was struggling for years to do so, but based on constitution and the influence that was coming to him from the Western world, he didn't have that possibility to actually seize the farms. So what he did was he encouraged war veterans, those who fought for the liberation of Zimbabwe from minority white rule in the 70s. He actually encouraged them, these veterans, to get in there and seize these farms. And when these people went to seize the farms, they took it, and the rest of the farms were actually occupied by government ministers and those who were connected to power. And so the rest of the land becomes a government land. So this particular land we are talking about, it is not like it was redistributed to Zimbabweans who were down there suffering. No, not even to the individuals whom the lands were taken from. But the veterans took over the farms. Those who went and fought for the liberation of the land, they did so. And sincerely, in such a situation, according to the 2013 Constitution, these white farmers are supposed to be compensated. But the question is, where is the compensation supposed to take place? Because when is it supposed to take place, and where is the money supposed to come from? Already, Zimbabwe is having heavy sums of debts that they have not been able to pay. Secondly, the sanctions that the Europeans actually impose on that nation crippled it to a state where it could not sustain itself. And why in 2017, when the military actually forced Mugabe out of power, bringing in Emerson, her name is Mnangagwa, as president, under his watch, Zimbabwe has further deteriorated in the sense that there have been high-level corruption amidst his government. This corruption to a state where, if you look in I think that was 2019, over $3 billion was supposed to be used in revamping the agricultural sector. This money, the Minister of Lands took that money, and sincerely, they can't give accounts. There are no documents to prove how that money was used. And there is a school in Zimbabwe where they went there and found that over 300 tractors were abandoned in the school, which was they're actually being abandoned, not being used. So why? Because some individuals sat on that money. Over $3 billion was squandered, and nobody knows where that money went to. There is no account of it. That is the problem of the present government. What could not happen under Mugabe? That was not possible to happen under Mugabe. But under this president, corruption has already come up. Am I saying that he is not fit to rule? No. Am I saying that is the best way? No. I'm simply saying that it will be difficult for that compensation to take place because there is no money. And that, to me, is like a cat on the table to gain favor from the Westerners so that he can easily get grants from the Westerners to build his nation. And you and I will know this, that these grants will further entrap Zimbabwe and carry it further deep into the ground. And those are some of the things that when Africans do not understand, we get to feel like the white man is our friend. They came to Africa without lands. They never owned a piece of land. They came by colonialism that seized the lands from its owners. They seized lands from their owners, from the indigenous owners of lands. Up to the year 2002, that these lands were forcefully taken. And for the past 20 years, the Americans, the Europeans have imposed unnecessary sanctions and given corporate punishment to the people of Zimbabwe. And today, Emerson comes up and talks of wanting to compensate the white farmers. And we are talking about 3,500 white farmers. The question is why are the black farmers whose lands were also seized not involved? Those are questions that we need to answer, but you already know the answer, because the reason why he's targeting the whites is because he wants that Britain and the Americans should turn and actually be able to sponsor and give more grants to his government, so that more embezzlement can take place, so that they can siphon it into their personal accounts. You see, that's the kind of politics we have in Africa, which does not think of the people, it always thinks of individuals. Because as we are talking right now, the situation that is happening in Zimbabwe is really, really bad, because just in the past 2-3 years, just in the year 2019, Zimbabwe imported food items of over 7 point something, that's 700 and something million dollars, just food items. That's to make you understand the situation. There's starvation happening there. The question is, why is it that the blacks have become so lazy in actually improving the farms? Is it only the whites that can improve the farms? Is it only the whites that can work? That is not true. There should be a reason behind. That reason is not only the fact that they are not sponsored, because if we consider the money, the 3 billion, which was spent by some individuals, if that money was divided amongst the black people there who own those lands, I'm sure they would have entered into farming, because for the past years, since 1970s and up to 2000s, the Zimbabwean economy had been powered by their farms, practically by their farms. And just imagine, these farms, which used to yield, for example, tobacco and all those things which were sold, are brought in. Money used in actually empowering the economy has failed, because there is no more export business that is taking place because of the sanctions that were placed on them. The question is there a way out which could handle the issue without necessarily compensating the white farmers? But I'll be sincere, if you listen to the plan, it is funny. Just imagine $3.5 billion is supposed to be given to the white people, and these white farmers are expecting that between 12 months, this money, half of the 3.5 billion, is supposed to be handed to them. And the rest of the money will be given to them in a lapse of 5 years period of time. And looking at the state of Zimbabwe, with the heavy debts that are on their heads, you start doubting if that money will be paid. That money will not be paid. So even with the idea, we know that, but I'll come back to say, Blandine, the idea of compensating the whites is actually found in the constitution of the Zimbabwean people, which is actually a document that was drawn not just by the ruling party, but by the ruling party and the opposition party, which were the lawmakers of 2013. But like truth will be told, documents like laws are also made by men. And it doesn't mean that because that particular idea or compensation plan is in the constitution, it is supposed to be fulfilled. Why? Because why I think it should not be fulfilled is because as long as I'm concerned, the white people took those lands by force. They never came with lands from Europe. And when they were doing all that evil, nobody spoke against them. I don't remember that anybody spoke against the idea of seizure of lands. They imposed themselves on Africans. They seized our lands. The same thing in South Africa, the same thing in Mozambique. You name all those countries around the southern zone. You discover that these white people came, imposed themselves, seized the lands of the people, invested on the lands. So what should happen is that these lands are supposed to be returned to the rightful owners by these same white people without asking for compensation. So they were not supposed to be compensated. I am remembering that today as we are talking, the whites have never compensated Africa for the colonial and the enslavement of the black people from which took place for over 200 years. They have never been able. Colonialism, they have never compensated the black people for colonizing them and imposing upon them. Our cultures have been destroyed. Our spirituality has been destroyed. Our societies have been destroyed, and foreign ideas and cultures invested in our nations simply because the white people feel like they are the ones who are ruling the world. We have never been compensated for that. So I don't think the idea of compensating the land owners, in fact, people who seize lands by force, I don't think compensating them is the best part. So I think that idea that is written in that constitution should be scrapped out of it, because it was a very bad law that was instituted. It's very bad. And why should a constitution carry the law of lands? That's to make you understand that even when the white man was not, they were still paying opposition parties. That's why they got to force Mugabe's hand into doing that. And I will tell you this. Democracy is the worst thing that ever happened to Africa. It's the worst thing that ever happened to Africa. Yes, because, I mean, the European democracy, I'm not talking, because before the Europeans came, we had democracy. We have autonomy in our various, in fact, there was federation in Africa, where chiefs, you had sub-chiefs who were ruling their different environments. Then you had the paramount chief who was up there. All this was in Africa, already instituted. We had kings, we had headquarter chiefs and all that. And people had the right to their farms. People were going to their farms. They owned their farms. They were not begging for food. So what is happening? Demon crazy, in the name of democracy, came to Africa and actually brought disorder in Africa. And today we are in the midst of struggling and stress because we have been imposed a strange system. I think it should be scrapped out of Africa and something better reinstituted to make Africa a better place. Opposition parties are not supposed to exist in Africa. That is why, in my understanding, the founding fathers dissolved the idea of multi-partisan and established single parties because they thought that that was the best that Africa needed, which could be used as a means to choose different leaders that will lead, but not opposing from another place. So they had one vision, and this one vision is supposed to be executed by that same party, even if they are supposed to be changing leaders. That is the way they thought that their own democracy could go, which was something related to the past system that was in Africa. But you see, as a result of the influence of Europeans and the too much pressure of Europeans, in the 90s, we had to step into what is called multi-partism. which was the worst nightmare that ever happened to Africa. And that is something that, as an individual, I think we need to work on. It needs to be worked on and on serious basis, because if we do not change this system, Africa will keep on suffering and Africa will remain in the same place. And that is why I will want to give you back the platform by ending and saying that the actual problem of the African people, the actual problem of Zimbabwe, is that of the system in operation, and not even of those who are leading, not even the idea. So you see, the system has forced the hand of the people. So we need to be able to speak the truth, to shame the devil, in case there is one in your backyard. So those are the things that, as an individual, I don't expect that should be handled in Africa. That particular idea of democracy is evil. I think for those of you who believe in God, you discover that God does not have an opposition who can overcome him. Is he a dictator? I will say yes, God is a dictator. So I prefer that we should follow the path of God rather than the path of opposition, because the devil is the opposer, and he is not supposed, that's not a system that we are supposed to be initiating. We should initiate systems where devils don't exist. That is what we need to institute in Africa. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you very much, bro, for that. That was really mind blowing. I'd say that. And I'm still gonna ask you. I'm still gonna ask you this question though. Do you think this move, because you've told us about how not good the move is, and how it's a surprising thing that um, the constitution needs to be, needs to handle actually land issues. Do you actually think that the president, the Emerson, is a right, the president, or is it the person that Zimbabwe needs at the moment?
I didn't get that clear, please.
Do you believe that Emerson Mnangagwa is the right person for Zimbabwe at the moment?
That's not a question that should be asked to an African, because to a Pan-Africanist. I'll be sincere to tell you that anybody is fit to be the right leader as long as he has the vision to be able to take the people to somewhere, except where the person does not have a vision. The question is, does Emerson have a vision for the Zimbabwean people? What is his vision? He came to power through an
So do you think he has a vision for Zimbabwe?
He came to power in an unprecedented manner, where he took over without being elected into power, using the normal democratic system that people call. And I don't think that he had the opportunity to actually present a memorandum to the people through which he could explain what he thought was best for the Zimbabwean people at that moment. But I think that he has been there since 2017. This is 3 years today. He was supposed to have been able to give the Zimbabwean people something to believe and to write home with. And so if it is lacking, then I think he needs to work on that. It's very, very important. He might be the right person as well as he might not be the right person. But as I said earlier, if the right system was in operation, he would have surely produced the results that are necessary. But because the wrong system is in operation, even if he does much as he can do, he will always be discredited. I want to be sincere with you that Mugabe did a lot of work. Mugabe was one of the best presidents that Africa had. But because he was demonized by the Westerners, Africans think he was the worst, one of the worst presidents that ever existed in Africa. So if our definition and our measuring rod of the leadership quality and ability of an individual is actually defined by Europeans, then that will mean that we are making a mistake in our definitions. We should not look at the failures of an individual to use as the measuring rod. What we should use is supposed to be the ability of the person to be able to extend or say to carry the people to the next level. The question now will be right to ask the Zimbabwean people if they think that Mugabe is the right person for them. I am in Cameroon. I'm not in Zimbabwe. And if you ask me if Paul Biya is the right president for Cameroon at this time, I might give you my own answer. But you are asking me of Emerson, and Emerson is the president of another state in the southern zone of Africa. So I want to say, I believe he has what he can lead the people. He has that particular ability to lead. It is in him. And I'm sure if he's given the right environment, he'll be able to give what it takes. And also, I will ask that somebody like him should be able to work to deal with corruption from amidst his people. You see, corruption is a product of democracy. Because even though good governance is supposed to be one of those values that is implanted in democracy, but we will see and discover that good governance in most of our African countries had been erupted because of the systems that were imposed on us. Nobody ever imposed systems on Westerners. They never got civilized ahead of us. The question is, why should they come to Africa and impose systems on Africans? You see, this idea of imposition is coming because they came to Africa, forced themselves on us, and said they were colonizing us. And in the midst of that looting strategy that they planted, because the idea of colonization was just a looting plan that was actually implemented to maintain enslavement forever. It was a looting plan that was actually established to give Europeans opportunity to feed their people at the detriment of the African people, where they come to Africa, collect our mineral resources, collect our food, collect what belongs to us, then go to Europe, feed their children. If you discover in Europe, people who are living on the streets and do not have houses are being fed by the government, where are they taking the money from? What they call welfare. Where do they take money from? It's from Africa. They come, they impose poverty on us, they institute it as a system, they collect what we have, they take the money, they feed their people, then they allow us in poverty, and then they turn and say we are poor people because of their evil system that they have implanted in Africa, which keeps destroying our nations. And as a result of that, we tend to blame one another. We are blaming our brothers and sisters over what we are not supposed to be blaming them for. But I will say this is the generation of youths that should be able to rise up against all this nonsense. It has been for long. We have already allowed 60 years after that so-called independence to pass. And these 60 years have not been a good period of time, not been good 60 years. There have been 60 years of pain, 60 years of misery, 60 years of stress. We need to change that. I think the youthful generation can rise up and make that difference by taking over what belongs to us. I will be sincere. Nobody is given freedom. Freedom is taken, and Africans must get to that place where they understand that they need to take this freedom back. We had freedom before they came here, and they don't have, they are savages more than us. I'll be sincere to say that. The white people are more savage than the black men. They are introduced, they look for means, created systems to destroy, not systems to build. If you look, you go to Europe, you go to the Americas today, I want to ask you, what has happened with their soil? They have destroyed it. They have destroyed their soils. What happened with the animals that they used to have? They killed them and ate. And now they come to Africa and they are trying to teach us how to associate with the environment. When we are environmentalists naturally, the African people are a people that live with nature. They are holistic. That's why we believe in herbal medicine, but they destroy all that from their area. That's just to show you the kind of people they are. So, if you ask me again, is Emerson the right leader? I would say, I believe he has the ability to lead. He has what it takes, but it is left to the people of Zimbabwe to determine whether he is the best leader to carry them to where they want to go to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that. Mr. Sam, during the signing of these lands over to the white farmers, Emerson Mnangagwa, he said it was a historical. It was historical in many respects. He stated saying it brought closure, and it was a beginning, and a new beginning in the history
Yeah.
Brandon, I've lost you.
discourse in Zimbabwe. So, and what is this new beginning? Okay, I'm saying during the signing of of the 3.5 billion worth of land to the white farmers, Emerson that it was in many respects. He said it brought in the history of the land discourse in Zimbabwe. So my question to you is, according to this statement, what do you think was the closure that it brought, and what do you think is the new beginning to the history of discourse of land in Zimbabwe? Could he be talking about?
Well, my take on that is that I think I place it under the political gimmicks I had mentioned earlier. Of course, as Prof put it, it is entrenched in the Constitution that the white farmers should be compensated. That is the aspect of closure, the compensation part. The new beginning, probably we can understand it as now possibly the white farmers taking control of production once more, and bringing in Western capital. Now, if we look at from another perspective, we would realize, as Prof also mentioned, is that the law itself is unethical, because if we analyze that law, it is not possible that the law only recognizes the disenfranchisement of one part of a population, and negate the same disenfranchisement from another part of the population. So if the law were to be just, then we would also talk about the compensation of the indigenous people who lost their lands for more than 200 years. If we were to compute and quantify that loss, I think, and place it on the balance, I don't think the loss of the white farmers will be as high as the loss of the indigenous people. Now, we know that's a part of the compensation part. So now, when we look at the so-called new beginning, as again put it, can really compensate white farmers. What will happen is that they go into more debt and more crippling of the Zimbabwean economy and the Zimbabwean people because they'll be more enslaved. The Western people will bring in the money and the white farmers will be compensated. But what does it mean for the country in general and the people in particular? I think we are just continuing a logic of enslavement. There is no new beginning for us there. It doesn't exist. In fact, it reminds me that the situation of Haiti. Haiti is still paying the debt to France for the so-called investment France put on in Haiti after the French were kicked out of Haiti. But Haiti is forced to pay it because Western government and nations support that, even if it is not just. We are living in a world where Western civilization has actually dominated political and economical arenas. And as long as this is perpetuated, we are not going to find any justice. And I think that's why I believe that the African Revolution will bring a sense of sanity in the world system. And that African Revolution has to start as little as possible, even from where we are today, and galvanizing the goodwill of the young people and trying to help them reorganize themselves. We know that in 2050, the world population will be more than 40% Africans and young Africans in addition. So how are we taking advantage of that population dividend in order to change the trajectory of not just our politics and economics, but the world politics and economics? So that's some of the questions I put to myself.
Thank you very much, sir. Since it's an open floor and I don't have any questions for now, Damien, I saw you indicated before Prof was talking, you had a contribution to make. Damien, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, actually, I like the way Prof took it, and he gave a real definition of democracy, and I like the way he said it, democracy. And the democracy here proves exactly what is happening in Zimbabwe. Let's take, for example, you guys, we have 3,500 white people. That has to be compensated 1 billion and something for farming. Let's say it. What is the population of Zimbabwe?
Please,
so that only
billion,
3.5
billion, not 1 point.
Yeah, 3.5 billion. What is the whole population of Zimbabwe? Why should we give 3.5 billion to only 3,500 people? That is one, and that is one of the democracy, as we say. And the second thing is the support that everything. But my real point is, because I don't understand why people will just walk around and say we pay you paper for your goods or whatever you have. The paper of the United States is dollar. The paper of Europe is euro. The paper of, I don't know, is all that is paper. Everybody can print it in his backyard. So that is my point. And we as Africans, we need to look into redefining what money is. Because that is exactly what China did. China, for it to be developed the way it is, and today is balancing the whole world and probably be the first economy in a couple of years from now, is because they refuse that people should come and compensate for goods with paper. If you want to come and take raw material from China, and that's the path we need to be looking into now as Africans. And the second thing also is on the law or the presidential system we have in Africa. Because the discussion we are having on is because somebody signed a paperwork with somebody somewhere. One person signed a paperwork with somebody somewhere to impose a certain system on a whole population. I don't know, maybe Zimbabwe is like 10 million inhabitants or 20 million inhabitants or whatever it is, to impose a whole system on all of those 10 million people. And that is where systems should come into place. We have to have regional system, presidential, not the presidential system. We need to make a system that respects our values. As Prof was saying in one of his interventions, he said when they came to Africa, they saw we had, if you balance our system, we were some kind of federation because we have chiefs everywhere, chief of this county, chief of this, and even county, I will say it in French. In Cameroon, they call it canton. That is where county come from, canton. And then those words are already in Cameroon. We already had it. So it was some kind of a federal system where one person cannot impose to everybody. You will talk to one person today, you will go 10 miles down the road, you have to talk to another person, it is another agreement. So at the end of the day, you're not gonna have an agreement. So, and that's where we need to change this presidential system so that everybody should be involved. I don't accept this kind of law in Zimbabwe that they have to take 3.5 billion to compensate 3,500 people. What about the rest of the 10,000 inhabitants? What about them? So yeah, Blandon, that was my take on this because it is frustrating, but we don't have to react with emotion on what is happening. We need to take it and see it in a global system, how we can fix it. That way, this kind of problem don't happen tomorrow. And to me, I think the presidential system is wrong. For me, I think the presidential system is wrong. And I think also the definition of money, the way we have it is also wrong. So that's my take on this.
Thank you very much, Damien, for that. I have an open question here from Kennedy, who is asking about, he says, I like the concept of the African Revolution, but exactly Mr. Sam, who's unmuted his mic so long. Yes, sir.
Yes, Blandine. The way I could define revolution is actually some sort of the returning back or gaining back, taking back will define the conquer of ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that. Do I have any other person who needs, who wants to talk about the revolution? Defining the revolution.
I think the revolution needs to be well taught. I mean, we need to because for a revolution, you need to identify your real enemies. Okay, our real enemies is not just white or whatever. It is a system. And when you identify a system, you have to bring a counterbalance system. If I take it from physics, the Newton first law of motion, action and reaction are equal and opposite. So if you want to get to zero, you have to have a balanced reaction that counterbalance an action. So, and that is what we need to look into. We need to look into identify the real enemy. The enemy is not a person. It's not somebody. It's a that counterfy exactly what part of that system, because the system is like that, but not all the system is working against us, for example. There are some positive part and there are some negative part. But we have to build our own system to counterbalance that system. That is why initially I was talking about redefining money. We have to define money in Africa. Our concept of money. I mean, the whole concept about scope. I'm sorry she's not here today. She was talking about, last time when she was talking about being accountable in a political system. In a political system where you have a system, I take for example Iran, because Iran is one of the, they have built their system, and then we can take an example from there. You see, I take it from Ahmadinejad. Ahmadinejad, when he was talking about this nuclear agreement with the West or everything, he will go back, his government will go back and talk to the supreme leader, which is a body. It is composed, I don't know, of 5 or 6 people. You have to come and talk to them. And then they will now take it from there and see how they will move the country forward. Then he will have an assembly, we have a senate, and then we have a house. And then, I mean, it's a whole system that's spread along Iran. You say something in Tehran, it doesn't work in other towns or whatever. You have to go there and talk to them again. So that is on the political system. And so we have to build some kind of sit down and build systems to counteract this other system. For example, we are talking about Zimbabwe. They have farmers and then they have loans from their banks. Their banking system is a system. And that banking system, is managed by laws. Those banking systems support the farmers. That's one. And then they have support from the government. That one is a political system, and so on and so on. So, and then they come on and they can impose on one person a system. When the president of Zimbabwe, for example, is signing all these things, he is the president, and on his presidential system country, he's one person facing all this system. Even if you are the best, even if you are Einstein, even if you have the best in mathematics or whatever, you cannot counteract all the system. Meanwhile, if you have a system that backs you, you also have an army of engineers, an army of financial, an army of this, and then you go as a system. Everything that is being said there, we kind of like go through accountability of all this system. Everybody will see how he gains into that before you guys sign into that. So that is why I can throw on this, that we need to come back to what we had as an African, because we had chiefs, we had our federal system, we had our way of living that corresponds to us, and then we need to build our system from there. I see Nigeria having a federal system. Cameroon is also trying to implement something like federal. And then some of the countries. And if you see, even in Africa, some of these countries that have this federal system, didn't really go very far from their natural way, the way they were living before. You will see that those countries are doing good. They are doing better than others. And that's exactly where we need to come back to. And for me, that's the revolution. That's the way I look at revolution. Not just moving around in the street saying that we want a change of this with signboards, rituals. Is we need to sit down and think into that. Academics need to come into play, political system, educational system, and all this. That's why we counterbalance the system. And I think that's the fight. That's why we need to bring the fight. That's my take on this.
Thank you very much for your contributions. I'm thinking that we don't have any other person that has a...
Please, can you speak to the hearing of everybody? You are speaking low.
Let me read a contribution.
Can you speak a little bit stronger, please?
So this contribution from Bao, he said, the problem we have in Africa is that we hate our brothers and sisters. The country, those who sound Zimbabwe, they should come together and help the country. The problem of Zimbabwe is our problem. South African, Namibian, Zambia, Tanzania, and he says we all can help. That is very true. We all can help one another. That's why we discuss in Zimbabwe in the forum, like this very mind that we all come from different countries, but Africa is ours. Africa is one, and we are all Africans, and it's something that we need to, deal with. I have one of during this my research on Zimbabwe, I also came across a statement from Tendai BP, who is a spokesman of Movement for Democratic Change (MDC) in Zimbabwe. He said that the government is closing political space, closing political and media space, massively engaging in corruption and abusing a constitution. Is there any change from what was, because we have the same complaints about the previous president, and we're having the same complaints about this said present president. Is there any changes to the state of things in Zimbabwe so far, Prof?
What I want to say is that in the present, that question is a kind of way of trying to find out if I'm going to accredit or discredit the present president for sure. No, that's what we are looking at. Looking forward for me to say. But I would say that from my understanding and in relation to the situation on the ground, one thing that is clear is that there's increased corruption. There's increased corruption, seriously, in Zimbabwe than it was before. And in relation to what is happening right now, a lot of Africans will see that there is there's no human right, there's disrespect of human rights in South Africa. Whether in Zimbabwe, the question is, what is human rights? Is it by definition of the Europeans, or is it by definition of the African people? Because we have accepted a lot of concepts, we are holding to a lot of concepts, we are preaching a lot of concepts which do not fit with the African society. And that is become the order of the day. We get to want to allow our societies to be run by European thought.
Okay, he's back.
Yeah.
So as I was saying,
Yeah, I think Prof is back.
I was saying that The problem we have in Africa is we get to measure most of the times the situations of Africa based on European definitions. We use a measuring rod which does not fit with our environment and our society to use in measuring the results of our society. I want to remind a lot of you here today so that we should get to hold on to this truth. Look, Africa has not only been under colonization. While we were being colonized and enslaved, we were building European societies. We were meant to build the European societies. So the European society was built on the blood and energy of the black people. The American society was built on the energy and blood of black people. And with all this, it took them hundreds of years to develop their society and bring it to the state in which it is today. You can't take a society like America that has been for over 200 and something years and want to compare it with a society like that of Africa. In fact, let me use Zimbabwe, which is practically had independence in the 80s. That is something that you should not compare. And when you struggle to take our experience and measure it with European experience, you are making a mistake. We are not supposed to have the same style of leadership and rule. No, it's not supposed to be like that. We are supposed to develop our own systems, develop our own style. That is why it is time for Africans to reject European systems and get to build. That's what revolution to me means. Make a turn around. Reject all what was brought to us. I am not saying that there are some things that are not working, but like I was saying today on a Pan-African platform, I said today, there is nothing new that the Europeans brought to Africa that had not been in Africa. I will remind you that in the year 700 AD, the black Africans, or call them Moors as they call them, took over Spain and part of Europe, civilized them, taught them, brought them together and gave them civilization, taught them basics of life, taught them governance, until 800 years after, which means the blacks ruled in Europe for 800 years. That's at the year 1400. And in the midst of all that, what were we using to measure the African success? It was our concepts. So when they frame concepts and bring to Africa, we use it in asking if the present situation in Zambia is succeeding or failing. The present situation in Zimbabwe, is it the best or is it failing? All that is as a result of our, we have been completely brainwashed. And what's of it, we have been, concepts that do not belong to us have been implanted in our minds that permit us to walk a walk which we are not supposed to. I always use this example. Today we are speaking English, which is part of our culture that has been destroyed. We're supposed to be speaking our various dialects, languages, might be Swahili, might be we're supposed to be speaking Kijam, Lamso, you can call any of the names you want to. But today, those languages are limited to a few group of persons, and you cannot imagine England is a small strip of land, with just few millions of persons. But these few millions of persons have disseminated English around the world because of the power of colonization. By the battle of the gun, they have been able to cause you and I to speak a language that is out of our reach. Today we measure our successes and failures based on their concepts. But I believe that there is an African way of living, and we could learn that and use that as a measuring rod to our African brothers and sisters. I saw what Baho actually said. He presented an argument that we need to be able to stand for one another, because the situation that is happening in Zimbabwe right now is our problem. The problem in Zimbabwe is my problem. It is your problem. So we need to recognize all these and choose to make that difference by being able to speak the truth to such things. So that's why I would come again to tell you, Blandine, that the problem is not whether the state of Zimbabwe now is better or is it worse. The situation in which Zimbabwe is facing since the year 2000 to today is as a result of European manipulation. It's because of European sanctions. So it is not a situation that was created by Mugabe, neither is it a situation that Emerson has created. It is a situation that was imposed, corporately imposed on the Zimbabwean people by the Americans and by the Europeans. They have imposed laws that they are not supposed to impose. They have sanctioned a whole nation. They did not, if Mugabe did something they didn't like, it was not in their place to sanction the entire country. They were supposed to sanction the leader, the president. That's who they were supposed to sanction. But you see, they went ahead to sanction the entire nation of Zimbabwe, because they are a people who don't like the good of Africa. And when they put those sanctions on Zimbabwe, those sanctions do not limit to the government of Mugabe and Mugabe. It went all around the nation. The entire population suffered. And what's of it, Mugabe did not even suffer as compared to them. They suffered as compared to the nationals, the citizens of Zimbabwe. The Zimbabweans suffered more than the person whom, according to America, they wanted to sanction. Sanctioning Mugabe would have been what they would have done, not Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe was led by an individual. But why did they do that? They did it because they want that when the people are hungry, the people can riot and rise up against the president. That is their way of leadership. That is what they have been using for generations to manipulate. It's either they are using us to kill our leaders. They are using us to instigate riot and insurgencies and problems against our leaders. That is the system. That is their style. We are no more actually ignorant of it. It is a system that has been implemented to cause African people to go through this suffering and to make us believe that it is our brothers and sisters who are the reason why we are suffering. So what we need to do now, I'll be plain to say this, we need a complete overhaul. We need a revolution. And this revolution can take place if all of us unite. And that is why Africa needs to unite at this hour. It is a time for Africa to unite in order to solve this problem that is dealing with us. We can't keep on like this and claim that the Europeans never gave us an opportunity. They have given us an opportunity. And what is that opportunity? That opportunity is the situation on the ground right now. What is happening right now, where the COVID-19 is exposing them, showing their weaknesses, that they don't have the sophisticated system that they made us believe that they had. You discover that the number of deaths around in the world are not coming from Africa, they're coming from Europe. Reason, they're coming from Europe, coming from the United States, to make you understand what they created to destroy us with is destroying them. I'm not saying it's a good thing, because every human life matters, but Zimbabwean life matters a lot also to African people. And that is my focus. They should stop the manipulation that they are using to manipulate our brothers and sisters. Let them allow us to lead ourselves through our own systems and our way. They should stop. When somebody, for example, I want to show you something. Why is it that Libya was attacked? Was Libya having any connection with France? Was Libya having any connection with the Americans? No. They saw the president of Libya, Gaddafi, at that time, as an individual who was thinking. Africans were not thinking, but Gaddafi was thinking.
Earlier about systemic issues. I think what we are facing, be it in Zimbabwe or in any other African country, or even all over the world, is systemic. We have a system in Zimbabwe and other countries which is not pro-people. We have a system which is pro-elite. And we talk about pro-elite, we are talking about pro-financial elite, those who can control means of production and finances. So that is the system that is prevalent in our world today. And the funniest part with that system, and even the tragic part of that system, is to look for scapegoats. It always says, okay, what you are facing today, it is because of your leaders, it is because of A, B, C, D, to kind of distract people from where the problem really is. Even the analyst and the expert and consultant who come and do some sort of studies, be it feasibility or prospective studies, those studies are usually to incriminate people and situations that are not actually to be incriminated. Now, Zimbabwe, for instance, the people cannot feed themselves. How can you explain that with so much land, arable land and productive land, people are lacking food, just food to feed themselves? I mean, this is unbelievable and incredible. So when we talk about an overhaul, is really and revolution, they're talking about the change, the complete change of that way of operating. A system cannot operate, people cannot function for the sake of a few who are taking all the benefits of these operations. It is not possible. We have to come back to what President Julius Nyerere called Ujama. Ujama is the refocus on the people, on the community. Or minority instead of the majority and everyone. is a system of exclusion. Is an elitist system, and an elitist system cannot be just. It's not possible. And we know that, for instance, in ancient Egypt, when we're talking about the Ma'at is justice, it's equity, it's harmony, it's balance. And the balance is not one side overweighing the other. No, the balance is everyone finds his or her own little thing out of what is there. No, I mean, that's the way I can put it bluntly.
Well, thank you very much for that. And we have Prof who has come back. Prof, I just want to give you the opportunity to continue with what you're saying, and also, relate the situation in Zimbabwe with other African countries, and relate the same situation with the United Africa for Economic Empowerment.
Okay, Blandine, I will say that I think I've been saying from the very onset is actually the position of the United Africa for Economic Empowerment, because I believe that for Africa to actually rise up, we must get to the place where we see the problem of our brothers as our problems, implying that we must get to a place where we unite. Uh, I had Sir Sam actually talking about the Mahat, which today has been turned and is used as maths. Mahat as a god of justice, a god of balance, is actually a system. You see, is actually what the African people believe and hold. We believe in balance. We believe in justice. We believe in equity. And these are the values that we want to propagate around Africa. These are the things that we want to see that Africa that be disseminated among ourselves, so that each African can learn to understand what makes an African. Because a lot of our brothers and sisters do not know all this. And that is why, as one of our objectives, it is to enlighten, bring awareness of who we are. Because once the people do not understand who they are, when they lack true identity, when they lack identity of themselves, anybody can present whatsoever before them and it will be accepted as truth. But as of now, this Pan-African Move organization, which we call United Africa for Economic Empowerment, exists as one of those organizations where we will want to bring Africans together in culturally, socially, and economically. We want to not only bring them, we want to empower them. And it will remain our dream till when we see that Africa is liberated, because the main aim of it is to see the emancipation. So as I said, the main aim of it is to see the unification of the African people. And if the African people are going to actually arrive at a place of unity, then it will take us working together. And that is why I'll call on each and everyone, you need to start sharing the website of the organization to as many persons as possible. And I want to call on each one of you right now. We need to visit the YouTube and share the YouTube link to as many as possible, because we need at least, within a short period of a time, 1,000 subscribers, so that we can start streaming live on YouTube, so as to be able to reach more persons. So I'm calling on you, please make sure you provoke a lot of persons to subscribe on our YouTube. We need more subscribers on the YouTube channel so that we can use the both channels, the Facebook and the YouTube, to reach more persons. So share the link, invite more persons to participate, invite more persons to visit our website, read more articles that are written on our website, go through our projects, as well as enlist as members so that we could make the difference. The intention is that before we are 1 year, we expect to have we should be able to have membership of more than 5 million persons in before 1 year elapses. And before we want to attain our 5 years, we should have made great strides. And so we expect that each one of us should be an ambassador of UNAFE. UNAFE, be an ambassador of UNAFE wheresoever you are. I call it UNAFE, that's United Africa for Economic Empowerment. So be an ambassador of UNAFE wheresoever you are. It will be better when each one of us is an ambassador. You share the vision. You share with your person, with people around you. You bring in more people, not only in the group, the WhatsApp group, but also in the Facebook group, to the website. More persons in the website is what we actually need for now. More persons in the website. We need more persons in the website. And I'll also call on you. I want you to know that when you go registering, don't forget, there is a token that needs to be dropped into the account as a membership fee. A lot of persons have not been responding to it. And that is why we need to be able to go through our national leadership to get through to fulfill this issue. Every one of us needs to pay in our membership fee, which is just $5. $5 is just the amount. We know for the past time, a lot of you have not been. For those who are in the diaspora, we said was $50, I'm sure, $50. And apart from that, the situation at hand right now permits us to do more than we have ever done. So I want to say it is time for each one of us to make that difference. Thank you very much. And I believe that is a sin of blessing. Let us spread UNAFE's vision. Let's recruit many. We are going to make great strides when we work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that. The website has been posted on www.pafremove.org, www.pafremov.org. Go there, register, read through, be a part of this movement, and I assure you, together we can make Africa a better place. And it's at this note that I'll say good night to everyone. Thank you so much for contributing today. We are looking forward to our next episode, which is on Tuesday. Thank you so much, Mr. Sam. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Bao and Kennedy, who's just left us a while ago. Good night to everyone, and have a blessed rest of the weekend.
Yeah, thank you to Blandine. Thank you, Prof. Thanks, Damien. Thanks, Kennedy, and have a good night.
You too, sir.